I just use these. I don't prepare anything. Everything comes off the cuff. But I have ideas written down. My journey during World War II. To set up where I am going to be to experience what I've experienced about the war. I have to tell you that I was born in 1937 with a recently widowed mom who was expecting me, and she had a 5-year-old boy. My dad died before I was born. He died in May out of a misdiagnosis in those days of he had appendix, which was not diagnosed, and it burst, and they couldn't save him. My mom was pregnant with me because then I'm born in October of 1937. And so now she's a 27-year-old widow, and we lived with my paternal grandmother, who that year not only lost her husband, she lost her son, my dad. So she is grieving. There were rumors of war, just rumors, not declared. And she chose to go and live with her daughter, and her daughter lived in Macerata. Okay. I was born in Tolentino. It doesn't show it here, but it's north of there, from here to Batavia. That's how far it is. But this is the location that I'm talking about and the experience that I had. Most of Italian war was really over here, okay? Most of the destructions were the big cities, okay? However, as I'm going to share, we get our share of, the experience. All right, as my grandma decides to go and live with her daughter in another city, a town, my mother is left with going to live with her parents, okay, who took in the 3 of us. My grandfather was a World War I, what do you call it? He was injured. What would you call him? Well,
Wounded warrior.
Wounded warrior, yeah, well, wounded. Okay, he was wounded during World War I. When the war ended, he was given this job as custodian of a school, an elementary school, which is still in existence and still working now. And he was to, and we lived in there. There was an apartment attached to the campus of the school. So now that's where I'm going to start. So this is where I am when finally the war breaks out, okay? And I am now, the war is 1940, so what am I, 3 years old? But now it ends in 45, so my formative years of 6, 7, 8, 9, the memories are very etched and they're there. So we didn't go, now it was easy for me to go to school because I just opened the door and I walked in the hallway, went to school, and then I came home. And the apartment had 3 bedrooms, a dining room, a sitting room, a big kitchen, and that was, where I lived. And when you came out the side door, not the door that went into the school, you saw what would be the football field. In Italy, they played soccer. So the soccer kids, and then the gym was over there, another building. And it was a 2-story school. Okay, I watched them. Now the war breaks out and we no longer can go to school. Okay, it's not safe for us to walk to school. I mean, not me, the rest of the kids, I would say for me. And so I went to 1st and 2nd grade and then 2 years of no school. And the building is empty, but the troops all came through, used the school to rest their troops. So my experience were with the Germans who came through, the Allies who came through, the Americans, the English, and not so much the Italians, because they were fighting up, you know. So those are the people that came through. When they came through, they took over the school, arrested their troop, and then they went on their way. Now my grandpa, who had a little, what do I want to say, maybe chicken coop, I'm going to call it, behind the gym. He had a little garden and everything. So he did raise his own chickens. And I couldn't play with the chicks because right from the time I'm little, we're going to eat them. So you can't have them as a pet. He raised rabbits because Italians eat rabbits. I've had rabbits and they're delicious, okay? I couldn't play with the little bunny because we were going to eat it and he didn't want any scenes. Okay, so no pets. So I said to my girls, I said, I don't like pets because I never had pets. So anyways, he stressed it. And then he sat me down and he tried to explain how dangerous it was out there. I was used to just going down the street to my girlfriend, you know, and everybody was your mother in those days. She would go, okay, it's time for you to go home now because it's lunchtime or it's dinner time, you know. But we were kind of wandering by ourselves. And my grandfather set me down and explained to me that these were very difficult times and that I had to listen to him and follow his instructions. You're no longer allowed to see your friends. I can bring you and pick you up, but you can't wander around by yourself. So we were very restricted, so I followed him all around, feeding the chickens and the rabbits and, you know, things like that. All right. The first thing I remember is that during the war, during the air raids, we had air raids, and the basement of the churches were where we gathered to whenever there was, you know, an air raid. That's where we went. So we had to sleep fully clothed. There was no time to look for your shoes, find your dresses or whatever. So we went to bed for many years dressed, with your shoes at the bottom of your bed, with your coat, and always the blanket that you were sleeping on, my mother would always take it with her, okay? So it wasn't fun to sleep dressed. It was really uncomfortable, but that's what we had to do. You lost your power at sundown. Everything became dark. So they centrally removed the electricity. The water was shut off. We don't know why. So now, I remember Grandpa goes, now I got to go to the middle of the town because every town in Italy has these fountains and you had to gather your water there. You also had to have on your windows black, either drapes or shade, whatever, because candlelight would be very bright when everything is pitch black. So it would show through the window or curtains. So I remember Grandma goes, well, we got to put these up, you know. And, all right, so now one night we missed going to and the other thing, if you missed when the air raid sounded, if you had X amount of time to reach the church that we would use as our shelter, and the doors would be locked and you could pound on them forever and they will not open the door. So if you were late, which my mother was one night, my town is like all towns in Italy. It's built on a hill. It's very little and surrounded by farmland. Okay, so now we miss the air raid. Not we miss it, we're late for the shelter. So now we go in the wheat field around us. She's running and I'm trying to keep up with her and she goes, come on, come on. We could hear the drum of the airplanes coming and and you didn't know if they were gonna hit you for any particular reason. So finally, we could see the airplanes coming. They're flying very low, and she puts me on the ground, covers me with a blanket, and I'm peeking behind the blanket, and I hear this drone. I can still remember the drone of the planes, because if it's full of bombs, it has a like it's in slow motion, okay? Of course, now, World War II, not today. So, I peeked out, and here they come. There's at least, well, I don't know, it looked like a lot. I can't say how many. And their searchlights were just going around and around and around. And my mother goes, oh my God, they're gonna see us, okay? So she kept praying, Evelyn, that prayers pulled everybody through in my family. So she starts to pray, please God, don't let us end like this, don't. Well, they left. And of course, then you get the all clear and you go back to your house and whatever time is left, So war is extremely disruptive to your life, to everything is rationed. Your bread is rationed, even though my grandma, made her own bread. She made her own pizza. She made her own food. You don't have the flour. You don't have the yeast. You don't have the things that you need to get that done. So one time she makes bread and she goes, my mother happens to say, wow, it didn't raise very well. It has no yeast. Just eat it. And then she would always say, soak it in, your sauce or whatever to make it soft. Okay, I told you about that. All right, when the Germans come, I'm sorry if any one of you are German, but this is what I remember. This is what I saw. They burned all our books, all our maps, and it was the biggest fire I've ever seen, as my grandfather's pleading with them to say, our children have to go back to school, you're ruining, and of course 999, but I saw that, okay? And my grandfather coming in said to my grandma, they've got plans for us, and we're not going to be Italy anymore, okay? So now they kept coming out of the windows, the 2-story windows. This book burning is a huge mound of books, and of course the other, the soldiers are down stoking the fire and burning it. And my grandfather's crying, now I'm little, but I saw it with them, and I kept saying to him, don't cry. And he just left and went in the house. When the Americans come through, I might be partial. They were just the nicest. I got the best candy out of them. You couldn't imagine. I'll have a picture here eventually. It's only, unfortunately, my brother and I went back and we asked permission to, that we couldn't go through. It's no longer, the apartment is used for storage now. It's no longer used, the custodian, whoever they are, doesn't live there anymore. But this is my brother and I. This is where I would sit. And I have pictures galore of being taken because I was just sitting there and just watching all their trucks come in and all their tanks come in, because that's what they did. They were foot soldiers mostly, okay? And so all their equipment came in also. And then they had nets that covered what was underneath in case the enemy was flying and would see that and bomb it. So now my grandmother goes, oh great, now they're gonna bring this stuff and we're gonna blow up. So she's all upset with what's coming in. So I'm in the stoop And I do have a lot of pictures that the Americans took. They're the only ones who took pictures. And can I take your picture? I can give you candy. Well, who the heck wasn't going to say, okay, take my picture? So, so they were very nice, you know, giving grandma stuff, and the other troops that came through, not so much. Even the English, you know, they were fine, they were good. Nobody ever, even the Germans personally didn't do anything to us, except the burning of the books and the maps and everything like that. So so that brings me memories. Yeah, that's my brother, who's no longer with us. But so you went through that door, and that's where you had a hallway, and then it was divided in all spaces. My aunt in Macerata, right there, I think that was the Allies. Unfortunately, they misjudged. They were going to bomb an armory, an Italian armory. Well, my aunt lived very close to the armory. She was on the 3rd floor. They bombed her apartment by mistake, the apartment complexes by mistake. It's Easter Sunday. She hears people in the rubbles, okay? She lost everything. And she was looking for my grandma. She goes, oh my God, you know, she must be here. And she's digging and digging and digging. And my grandma, being Easter, had gotten up very early, 5 or 6 o'clock, had walked her way to the farmer to get some eggs. They were farmer friends. Which now my aunt, who loses her house, goes to this farmer, and she said, we don't have a house. What can you do for us? And she said, I can give you the stable, because the Germans have used all our cattle and all our pigs and all our sheep to feed the troops. That was one of the things that was very difficult for Italy, France, or anything, because when the Germans came through, it's not like today that they have supplies for them. So they just had, in order to feed their troop, they just came in and took, you know, whatever they needed. And so my aunt, who's my religious person, who, you know, if I'm religious, it's because of her. She says to him, she said, we'll take the stable. If the stable was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for us. And she lived in the stable for about, I don't know, probably until, you know, she found another apartment. I really don't know how long she stayed there, because again, she's in a different town, but that's what happened to her during the war. So those are my stories. And I have another sad story. I did save my my grandfather's life after the war. I think if you know anything about World War II, especially in Italy, they were the anti-war people. They were called, I can't think of the word right now, but they were in the hills of Italy, you know, trying to overturn the war, okay? They were called partisans. And after the war, now my grandfather, who's a World War II person, but he liked Mussolini when he first came into power. You know, he did a lot of good things for Italy, you know, like school for everybody, because in those days, the farmers' children never went to school. And he said, everybody has to be educated. So my grandfather liked him, okay? And so he was a sympathizer. That's how they took it. So after the war, they would go around, and any sympathizer, they would call you outside and shoot you. So they come for my grandfather. And I, as a little kid, don't underestimate what they're listening to. I had heard a story where they said, gee, the partisans are coming now that the war is over, and they're shooting any sympathizer. Now, Grandpa was just a person who liked him. That's it. You know, he wasn't out there, working for him or anything like that. So one night there was a knock on the door, and when I go back, my aunts and uncles remind me that this is what I did. So, knock on the door, they want my grandfather to go out. There's about 3 or 4 guys. So my grandfather goes, well, why don't you come in and talk to me here? He says, why do I have to go? No, we want you outside. And I don't know what came over me. I just grabbed onto his leg and I started to scream and cry. Don't go, Grandpa, don't go, Grandpa. You can't go, you can't go. I didn't know why, but that's what I did. And they got, so my grandfather, you know, was trying to ease me and everything. And he said, we can talk. I want you outside now. Okay, so I wouldn't let go and they left.
Wow.
So my uncle said to me, you didn't know it, but you saved his life. And I said, I didn't want my grandpa to go. He was the dad I never had, beside being the grandpa. So we were very, very close. He was my hero.
Wow. Boy, you're his hero.
So
When did you come over? Like, tell us about coming over on the boat.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and what about the Pope?
Yeah, God, tell us about that.
Tell us about the Pope.
well, you heard about the Pope
Well, I
already.
have, but they
No, I
haven't.
haven't.
All right, I came here in 1949. And in those days, when we talk about immigration now, the policy of immigration was, my mother, if I really tell you this story, you're going to be so confused. My stepfather is my biological father's uncle. My grandma is his sister. All right, they came from my little town, 9 children. 4 of them came to the United States, and the rest stayed in Italy out of the 9 children. So now he's going to visit Italy in 1947. And he wants to marry an Italian woman. The biggest mistake for my mother. However, my grandma said, you know, at this day and age with the war and everything, he says, why don't you just marry him? At least the kids will all be together, and then one by one will come, you know? And my mother, you know, anyways, long story short, they got married in Italy. He's 17 years older than her. So, she's only 37 when she comes here. So I don't know what 17, I'm not good at math, whatever he is. And, but that's how I came. So now the immigration is, my father comes back, has to send for my mother. My mother comes over, the 2 of them have to send for me. So I was on the boat, ocean liner, 10 days, with no parents, nobody that I knew except the strangers on the boat. Because that was the immigration policy.
How old were you?
11. So now my aunt, religious aunt, I can't leave Italy without seeing the Pope. So now she starts with our bishop, then she goes to our cardinal, and they said, Signora, to really get an audience with the Pope is very difficult. You just can't. She said, well, I'm giving you a lot of time, you know. He said, my niece is leaving. I just want her to meet the Pope. So it's now at Pope Pius the 12th. So you know how old I am now. So about a week before I'm leaving, she gets a thing from the Vatican that the Pope has an audience with some foreign students. The group is not that big, and that I could join their group. Okay? My aunt is ecstatic. I could care less because, you know, I'm 11, who cares, you know? So, we go to Rome because you had to go to Rome anyways in order to get to Naples, where I pick up the ship. So, we go through the thing. We're put in this big room, beautiful, huge room, and everybody was lined up. And when the Pope opened the door, now if you remember, he's all in white, he's very thin, he looked like he's 7 feet tall to me, because I'm little. And I was so prior to this, my aunt is teaching me how to genuflect and kiss the ring, because I've got to do it right.
Which Pope is this?
12, after the war. So, now he starts around and he talks, and now he finally comes to me, and I did a good job genuflecting, kissing his ring, and he lifts me up and he goes, "So you're the little girl that's going to America. I'm going to pray for you for a safe journey." So I'm just in awe. And he said, "But I want you to remember something." He said, "You were born Catholic, you will die Catholic. Because you're going in a country that's made up of a lot of religions. And you're Catholic, you're going to stay Catholic." So, I pay attention, I follow instructions. I learned when my grandfather set me down. And it's funny, the funny story is if I started to date, honest to God, my first question would be, "Are you Catholic?" And I remember the one kid, I can see him, you know, now we're just in high school, freshman. And he goes, "I only asked you out to the movies." Yeah, exactly. So so that's my story of the Pope. And I know Evelyn would like to know my visitation to the Laredo, which is very close to us. I don't see if we see it there, no.
Where is it?
Oh, if we're here, it's in, it's here somewhere, not Tuscany, I think 14, up here. It's not far from us, so it might still be in the market. It might still be in the market. Okay, the house. All right.
Gotta back up.
Well, the church is beautiful. The Church of Laredo is absolutely beautiful. Thousands and thousands of people go there. There's always, you never see it empty. And when you walk in, and it's a long line to get to be inside the little house that they feel the angels brought to Laredo. Okay, now even my husband goes, "Really?" You have to really have a lot of faith to believe that something could come when we really know so little about the Blessed Mother. And but anyways, there's a room, a huge room, and the house is inside this room. And you're welcome to walk through it. And it's starting to be pretty warm for people to kneel there. They pray in there, and supposedly you get indulgences from there. And I wish I had pictures. If they were now, I'd be taking pictures like crazy. We didn't even have cameras, much less, but it would be nice to be able to show you
I wonder if they let
that.
you take photographs in there.
Pardon?
I wonder if they let you
No,
take.
they wouldn't do,
Yeah.
they wouldn't let you do that, but at least the church itself, the
Right.
outside, and even the, the inside you could take, but they wouldn't let you go in there and take pictures, that's for
I have
sure.
a question. What is Laredo?
But I was just gonna say, some people might not know about this house.
Okay. Supposedly, and I don't know, maybe Evelyn can fill in, because the only thing that I know of the story It's a church that they built when the angels took the Blessed Mother's house and brought it to Italy for safekeeping. And they landed in Laredo, and they built a huge church. Our Lady of Laredo is what she's called.
And when we did the consecration to Saint Joseph, it's in the book.
Okay.
It tells you all about it, and they were having trouble with it there.
Yeah.
And the angels didn't like the problems that were going through right where they were, and so they picked it up and they carried the house.
Exactly, and sent it, brought it there.
prove that the materials that made that house, they can date it back to
Yes,
Israel?
yes, that's
Yeah,
what they
those
say.
materials weren't
Yeah.
in Laredo.
Correct, right.
They were in
Yeah.
Nazareth.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but I was lucky enough to be in the church, and I did my little tour inside, and this is all thanks to my aunt, because she is, yeah, I was little, and she would go, I said, where are we going today? She said, well, first we're going shopping. No, first we're going to visit Jesus, so now I'm little when she finally she goes, we're going to go and see Jesus because he's lonely and we have to go and pray. So I walked in, I'm expecting Jesus, okay, I'm little, I'm expecting Jesus, and I said, there's nobody here. And that was my first lesson, Jesus is everywhere.
Describe the house.
Pardon?
Describe the house. What the house was like.
The Blessed Mother's house?
Yes.
It was very little. I'm gonna say, well, now I can stand up. And everybody's got to crawl in to get into the house. I'm going to say it's probably like this, and it's just, the roof comes down like this. There's a door without a door, just an opening, and then there's opening for 2 windows, and that's it. And now, in church, I don't know if the floor is the church's floor, but I mean, if it wasn't, maybe it wore out, I don't know, but it seemed like somebody picked up this frame and just plopped it down, okay? I don't, like, again, at my age, I wouldn't be that interested to really look at it in detail. Now I would, but then.
So you crawled in?
Yes. Yeah.
So even if you're an adult?
Everybody had to crawl in. The opening was very, very small. But if you go back in history and you see their dwellings, they were small. They were not big houses, and almost everybody had to kind of stoop in, So, yeah, you had to crawl in on your knees and then crawl in. Yeah. And no more than 2 people. And then if they're praying, the line is long because you've got to wait till they're done before you can go in, so the line wraps around. St. Francis of Assisi is the same way,
Wasn't the house moved to another place, do you remember, before it was moved to Laredo? Can't remember why it was moved, because it was gonna be destroyed or something by the Muslims.
It seemed to me like something about money too, that they were gonna charge and all of that, but I may be mistaken.
Yeah,
but-
I hope.
No, here you walk in, they don't charge you, you just walk in. You have to be properly dressed though. When I took my granddaughters to Italy, there they are with their little halters and the thing. I go, you want to go to St. Vincent, you want to go to Laredo, you want to go to St. Francis of Assisi, they're not going to let you in. Sure enough, even at the Vatican, at St. Peter's, there's people there with a ton of scarves that you have to return when you're going through, because you've got to be properly dressed and you can't have sleeveless. They don't even want sleeveless things. You have to be, dressed.
It's called respect.
Yeah.
We lack that in our country.
How refreshing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell your hospital story.
Which hospital?
Or what about, Mother Teresa story?
Oh, you mean that's happening to me, that happened to
Right,
me?
yeah, jump.
Oh, yes, yes.
You mean okay, Sister Jonas goes to Italy from Response to Love. She goes to Italy for the beatification of Mother Teresa. She becomes a saint, so she was there. And she brought me back Mother Teresa's, holy card. And I have it on I still do, the mirror of my dresser, I have Mother Teresa right there. Okay. This one day, I'm making my bed. I, brought all the and all of a sudden, her picture, I bring up my sheet, I bring up the blanket, I'm ready to bring up my bedspread, and there's the card laying there. I look over by the mirror, and it's missing. I said, I always get the chills when all this happens to me, okay? So I said, Richard happened to come in, and I said, this is the strangest thing. I said, I always have Mother Teresa's picture on my mirror, and here it is. I pull up the bedspread, and it's here. How did it get here? And he goes, you know how you use holy cards for bookmarkers? You probably had it in your book. And I said, Richard, I did not have her as my bookmark. I'm not crazy. And that's something that happened. And then all those stories about,
Now you've got a devotion to her that you didn't have before.
No, and then I said to her, I picked up the picture and I said, Mother Teresa, what do you want? I know so little about you. Well, then I had to get a book to find out all about her, what she is, and charitable. So, but that was, it was something that was strange. It shouldn't,
She's trying to tell you something.
I don't know.
Do you want to talk about the hospital visit?
No,
Okay.
they're gonna think I'm crazy.
No, we're not. We're not gonna think you're crazy.
I thought you wanted to know how I learned English. That was a
Oh,
true story. No.
That too.
You can tell that story
Okay,
too about
I
your
went-
teacher.
I had a hip replaced. Actually, it was January 5th, 2021. And it was the middle of COVID. So, and I went to Sister's Hospital to do the surgery. Richard couldn't take me. I couldn't have visitors. It was just me walking in at 3 o'clock in the morning with my little duffel bag, and everybody's masked. I said goodbye to Richard, and the nurse comes in, takes me in. Fine, okay, surgery goes well, I'm all done. But because of my age, they're gonna keep me overnight, make sure that everything's okay. So, I had my dinner, and I'm deciding whether I should watch TV or read my book. And so I'm just kind of laying there when keep in mind that there is no visitors. I can't have anybody with me. This gentleman, clergy person looking, I do not remember if he had a collar, but he was dressed all in black with the black front, the whole thing, comes in my room. Does not say anything, doesn't say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I came here to bless you, or, just walks in the room, takes a seat right here, and just sits. And now, because I'm chatty, it doesn't sit well that there's nothing being said. So I took it upon myself to assume he was a priest, forgetting that the clergy were not allowed to even visit patients, okay? Had I remembered that, I would have thought something. So now I say to him, oh, Father, thank you very much for, coming to visit me. Doesn't say anything. He says to me, what church do you go to? And I said, I belong to St. Vincent de Paul. He said, have you been involved in any ministries and I said, yes. I said, I've, taught religion, and I was giving my little spiel of what I was involved in. And I said, where's your parish father? Again, assuming he's a priest. I don't remember a collar. Keep that in mind. But now I'm starting to think that I'm still under anesthesia and that I'm delusional, okay? So, he says to me, I am pastoral. Now look that up. Gatherer of the sheep, okay? With that, he gets up, doesn't bless me, doesn't say anything, walks out. I refused to share this with anybody because everybody was going to think I was crazy. So I didn't tell Richard, I didn't tell my girls, nothing. I knew that it was anesthesia, I was delusional, and I let it go. Move forward to the last Sunday in July of 2021. I'm at St. Vincent's at Mass. I just received communion. And I'm ready to walk to my pew to just say my prayers and my intentions. When this voice, and it was not in my head, it was if this person was in the next pew, the pew in front of me, and he turned around to talk to me. That's what I heard. And he said, it was I who came to visit you, the voice said. With that, just a little clip, visual of this person walking in my room. I started to cry. I got chills. I came out. Richard says to me, what the heck is wrong with you? I said, well, in order to tell you about today, I've got to go back to the beginning. And that's the first time he heard the story. I shared it with Father Betty from Response to Love. And he said to me, these things do happen. And, but then the following week when I went, he was looking for me because he had discussed this with his superiors. He goes, we had such a good discussion about your, I bet you did. And he said, Enya, these are mystical things that happen. And he said, accept it and share it. And that's when the first people who heard it was you guys, when I came and shared it. But then I shared it with my daughters, and then my grandchildren, and anybody that's, a little bit religious. I did have a few negatives saying, what makes you so special that you would experience this? I said, I don't think I'm special. I said, I'm just sharing an experience. I said, take it or leave it, And then somebody else said pretty much the same thing, what makes you so special that you would have this.
Really?
What?
You were blessed by Pope Pius, so there you go, that's what makes it special.
And you should say back, and you.
Yeah, well, Pope Pius, if he did pray for me, it worked,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, because even the teachers that I was given, I feel so blessed. If I know the language, it's because this one particular teacher just took me under her wing, and I don't know, she was smarter than all of us, and like telling me not to speak English with my family. Now, I came in March. They allowed me to be an observer in school. So March, I'm here. I arrived here April 2nd of 1949. They allowed me to go to school to keep me busy, just as an observer to absorb the language and everything. So I wasn't asked to do anything. I was just to sit there, and then through, you, me, we're going. And then Miss Bieber would go, Miss Bieber, meaning her, Enya, you, okay, me, Miss Bieber, you, okay. The curriculum, okay, so that was till June, and when they went to exams, I couldn't go. So I had to, wait till September. September, I'm put in her class again. Now in Italy, I have a 5th grade education in Italian, okay? When I talk to my lawyer nephew, I go, can you lower that to the 5th grade level? Because his Italian is up here. I have never heard the words that he uses just speaking. They're just, and so he goes, I don't know if I can come down to that level. So naturally here they put me in a 5th grade classroom. I'm way ahead of them in math, even though I'm so poor in math. And I had to take some Latin, and we did Roman numerals. That was part of our curriculum in Italy. We had to know Latin, we had to know all that stuff. So, Miss Bieber, now it's September. I go, Miss Bieber's. Now, before I leave in June, the beginning of June, before exams start, she goes to me, do not speak Italian with your family. No, don't speak English with your family. Only speak Italian. So I said, I said, no, I can't speak English with you people. So she goes, well, how am I going to learn? I don't know, but I can't speak English with you people. Now comes September, I get her, and my English is not all that good yet, and so now that's where she takes over, and it's she has lavatory break in 5th grade, okay? So she go, okay, we're all going to the lavatory. Now she looks at me, and she just tells me to get up, right? Then she takes, and outside of the bathroom, it said lavatory, okay? So now she goes, Enya, lavatory. Opens the door, it's a lavatory. Well, I got it. Okay, it's the bathroom. So when she says lavatory, we're going into the bathroom, okay? So it was a lot of that. Now she goes to me, now it's a few months, my English is getting okay, still can't write a lot of papers or anything, but it's doable. So now she says to me, okay, I want to know when you have your total American dream, where you're speaking only English in your dream, no Italian, only English. So, okay, well, one dream was all English. So I'm all excited because now I'm thinking she's a little off a rocker to ask me to, okay. So she comes, and through all these months, I'm not to speak English with my family, okay. Still, she's adamant about that. And so I said, oh, Miss Bieber, I said, I had my first American dream. I spoke only English. She looks at me and she goes, okay, now you can speak in English with your family. Her theory was that if I'm now dreaming in my language, my subconscious has picked up the language, and she doesn't have to worry about accents or anything like that. Yeah. And how I learned also, she picked out 3 comic books for conversational English, okay? It was Nancy in those days, if anybody remembers, and Jughead, and another one, I can't remember. And I was to read them just to get the conversational English, so that a question is asked, somebody answers, and all that. So that was what she did. So that was my curriculum. And then my moment of truth was when I went for my paper, where he said, I studied my heart out. You had to know all about the workings of the government.
You're talking about
How
her
the-
citizenship?
Yes, yes. So now, because when you're a minor, you're with your mother. She got her papers, you know, she went to school, got her citizenship paper. She has her diplomas. I just saw them the other day when I'm sorting out stuff. And she was in her papers. So then you're a minor, you're just a citizen through her, okay? Now I'm 19, I'm a working girl, and I'm gonna go for my paper. I studied like an idiot, because I'm expecting them to ask me everything. I go before the judge, and he goes, hi. He goes, I'm Judge so-and-so, and I says, well, I'm Enya Corbetta. And he goes, oh yeah, you're here to help your mother here, I know. I go, no. I said, I'm here to get my own paper. I said, I'm 19, I'm on my mother's, I would like my own paper. So as I'm talking like this, he's gone, weren't you born here? And I said, no. I said, I came when I was 11. I said, but I did go through high school. I graduated from high school and everything. He goes to the clerk, oh my God, put her down and for her paper. She already took American history. So now I look at him and I'm going, you're not gonna test me?
Please.
I was so disappointed. But there was I thought if a judge thought I was born here, then I figured I spoke well enough to
Yeah.
not have the accent, you know, because he thought I was born here.
You were, what age were you when you came over?
11,
Because my husband was 10.
Yeah.
And he's got no accent.
right.
And his nephews, I might have told you this, they came over later, and they were, I believe they were adolescent. They were adolescent. And in both of these cases, they were just thrown, Frank went to, just thrown into the classroom. And
Yeah, that's what I was too, just
same
thrown.
thing, you know, there's no English as a second language, but all the nephews have heavy accents.
They claim that if you're over 16, you won't lose your, I speak Italian with an English accent. They laugh at me.
Oh, do they?
I still know my 5th grade Italian works for me as a tourist, works for me with my family. I talk to them once a month. They totally understand me. My sister-in-law thinks I'm the most brilliant thing in the world. And I'm going, okay. And then I talk to my nephew and I know how stupid I really am because he is so, oh my God. I said, does your mother understand you? I just never knew it's like your verbs, your adjectives, that you just didn't learn them. So, I have a 5th grade education, but I can do very well. I can, I can talk to them on the phone. They totally understand me. And but my brother goes, oh my God, he goes, you talk like, with an English accent now. I
Did
said,
your brothers go back?
my brother never came.
Oh, he never came?
No, he said at 16, he stayed with an aunt who was our second mother. She never had children of her own, so he didn't want to deal with a stepfather, and he didn't want to learn the language.
Yeah.
He didn't want to feel like, so he never came, broke my mother's heart. This is where I'm going to now say she made the biggest mistake of her life. She died at 60, never forgave herself for coming over. She said, instead of uniting my family, I divided my family.
That
And
was pretty
then-
common though, because Frank's family too, half
Yeah.
of them stayed there.
Yeah.
And you came in for
49.
49?
Mm-hmm.
He came in 56.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the same thing, exactly what you're saying. It did divide. Half of the family is there. They got a girlfriend or a
But
wife.
she never forgave herself, and I just felt really bad, And she died young. She had just turned 60 when she.
Do you think it was because of her son being over there?
I think, well, the other thing that my stepfather didn't physically abuse us, okay, but emotionally he did, okay. She begged him to take her back to see her son. He waited until I was married and had my first 2 kids before he took her back. Because now he knew, he had a feeling that if we went back, our family would have surrounded us and we would have been staying, we wouldn't have come back. So he kept saying, I don't have enough money to, for 3 tickets to Italy, that's too expensive, I don't have the money. Well, she begged and begged, and now my brother takes it that she didn't care enough to go and see him. And I said to him, I said, I'm so glad I had a chance, because I went back to Italy 10 times. So we had, and 2 times for a month each time. So we had a lot of time together. And I said to him, I said, she died of a broken heart. She never forgave herself. So I said, please don't, you only know what you think.
Tell them about your uncles who came and you made sauce.
No, that's my stepfather.
Well, whoever it
Yeah.
was, you made sauce.
Yeah. Okay, my stepfather, if you guys know the Bocce Club Pizza, the original owner of the Bocce Club Pizza was my father, who created it. And the guy that bought it was working for my stepfather, and he bought the business, and that's how he came to Italy in 1947. And now they own it, and they've got pictures of the father. The kids own it now, out in Amherst. And the timeline is totally correct, because he came in 1947, and my mom came here in 48.
When someone came to visit you and you had made sauce, and
No,
they said, Enya, when are you ever gonna learn to make
That's
good sauce?
my stepfather was he made pizza, so he was a good cook. And he
then
didn't
she
like
would-
my sauce. It was always too tart, too sweet, and not enough seasoning and whatever. And every time he came for dinner, he just mocked my sauce. Now they're gonna come for dinner. Richard would bring them. He worked at American Icon. He would bring them, and I just had bought jar sauces. And this is a true story. I happen to have ragu, meat ragu, and Prego meat sauce. Both of them are meat sauces. Okay. I said to myself, I said, they're coming. That's all. I'm going to blend them, because I needed more than just the 1 jar. So I blended the things, but I always, cooked my meat, put the things in, made it go as if I'm doing it from scratch, only it's not. Oh my God, I'm serving this. He goes, now this is my stepfather, he goes, well, you finally learned how to make sauce. And all of you, if you're gonna come to my house, that's the sauce you're gonna get. And when my friends ask for a recipe, I go, you have got to be joking. I said, just because I'm Italian, I don't make stuff from scratch. So I said to her, to the one, I said, no, this is what I do. And so I have a lot of friends that blend it. So if you're ever in a pinch, put them together, but give them a little bit to simmer and combine, and it'll be the Marchigiano sauce. Okay?
Okay.
Keep in mind, it's regional cooking in Italy. Calabria will have their own, lasagna. We have our own lasagna. So everybody has the same dishes, but they're different. Okay?
Do you just want to tell about how you got involved with teaching religious instructions?
Here? You mean here?
Yeah.
I was never involved until I came to Elma. My very first Mass was with Father Crowley, and he is begging for teachers, and, I've got babies, okay? I've got little kids. So at the end of Mass, he always stood there, and I said, Father, someday, I said, when my kids are big, I'm gonna get involved. I said, but right now, I said, I don't have the time. Okay, that was it. And he goes, oh, okay. I think it's a Monday. Yeah, probably the day after. Knock, knock on the door. And he goes, Mrs. Corbetta, I can't wait till your kids grow up. He goes, we're teaching the sacraments. Now, how hard can it be? Here are the 10 books. You've got 10 kids from high school, and I'm making it easy on you. They're going to come to your house. You don't have to come to the school. I'm holding these books, and I thought, what just happened? You know, I'm not a teacher. You know, this is going to be easy. Oh my God. So now I tell Richard, and I have to say, it was his advice. He says to me, okay, he goes, it's 1 hour. Come on. He said, you're religious enough to pull this off. He said, I'll take care of the kids upstairs for the hour. I go, how are you going to keep 4 girls upstairs? You know, I said, the baby will need a bath and all this stuff. And he goes, I'll take care of it. You take care of the kids. And if it wasn't for him, I would have refused. But, you know, he said, no, you can do this. And so sure enough, now it's Monday and they come and there's these 7 or 8. And I'm going to laugh because it is, what do you call it? Kathy Berger. And it is Lucy. Okay, those were the, you know, the kids.
2 of the women that are in our discussion group now.
So anyways, they come and I looked at the lesson, I said, and then I made it fun for them because we actually had a baptism, we actually had a marriage, and I wanted them to listen to the vows and see what they're promising. And I had boys and girls. So I said, you 2 are going to get married tonight. And so it was a very successful sessions with the teenagers because it wasn't just from the book. We baptized a doll from my daughters. I said, we're going to baptize a baby today. I said, you 2 are the parents, you 2 are the sponsors, you know, the godmother. And so that's what I did.
You're awesome.
No, I'm not awesome. It's just that I had to make them fun. I knew, and you know, you don't want to go to somebody's house and, you know.
The
So,
Holy Spirit touched you and gave you that creativity.
well, yeah, I hope so. I guess so because they did like the classes, and then they talked about it. And then the next year, are we going to have the sacraments? What are you teaching? Then I had to teach morality 1 year. Oh, that was tough. That was to the junior class now I get. So first I got just then I get the juniors, and I had to do morality. That was very interesting.
Just try teaching it now.
Question, when you came from Italy, you were 11 years old, and did you come to Ellis Island? Is that how?
No, I came, but I did go back to see Pier 76. It's still there. It's the only one that's covered.
Okay.
And
Who met you? I mean, you were alone on this.
yes. Oh, and the scary part was that the day of deportation, where you leave the boat, she says to me, with my little suitcase, I should have brought it because I think you would laugh at the size of the suitcase, and it's cardboard.
Oh.
But then when I went to see Churchill's bunker, and his secretary had the same. I said to Richard, oh my God, there's my suitcase. I felt better.
The people that sponsored you when you got here, they had to pay money. It's not like you just get to come into the country.
That was my
now.
father's time,
Okay.
absolutely. My father was sponsored by a family, an
Right.
Italian family, for a year until they got acclimated, and that was where in my case, I had and I do have the papers to show my grandchildren and children that he had to show that he was financially stable to take care of us. And in red, and I highlighted for my kids in the paper, it said, because Enya and Maria cannot be a ward of the state or the country. They will be deported, in black and white.
And now you could get a charge card.
And now,
Today.
I know, okay? That's why I have very strong feelings about what's going on right now. And when they say we don't have an immigration policy, they did have an immigration policy. And my father, when he came, he had to be sponsored. In my case, it was a marriage, and he had to prove that he could support us, that he had a job, And in black and white, if he couldn't take care of us, we would be deported. We could not be awarded the state or the country. So I have so I have very, very big
My parents
feelings
are
about that.
Canadian and they,
You know?
Ford Motor Company went to small towns in Quebec and recruited workers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were the sponsors somehow for
Yeah.
my father
Yeah.
to get here. And then he got married and brought my mom here.
Yeah.
But, and Frank, it was his, from Italy, his grandparents
Yes.
were here.
Yeah.
His grandparents were here. And so that's why that family got, the nephews, they came later because it took time
Right.
to get the money to sponsor the whole family, you know?
Right.
So similar, so.
Circumstances, yeah.
Right, but same thing with you, with my family, you know, my parents, they had to follow the
Yeah.
rules, and
Yeah.
my dad got, activated. He got his citizenship because during the Korean conflict, he had to get activated, he was activated into the service. And, so my dad got his citizenship. By the time Frank was here, and grew up, because he's a lot younger than my dad, my husband, he had to, he was drafted, I think. And then he found out when he got out of the service, he didn't have automatic citizenship like my dad did. He had to take it years later.
Yeah.
But he found out that he could also be, if he went back and visited his relatives, he was still an Italian citizen, he could be drafted over there.
Oh, wow.
So he, that motivated
I
him to
don't
get
lose
the
my
citizenship.
citizenship in Italy either. I'm a citizen of Italy always, even though I've left.
Yeah,
And when I went to find out about my father, you know, I wanted to see their marriage certificate, so I went to the city hall. And the young man he shows me all the papers and everything. And it was very touching for me to see the marriage license and see my father's signature and my mother's signature. That meant a lot to me. So then he goes to me, Signora, you ever want to come back? You just come back. You're always here. He said you'll always be an Italian. So
Well, I'm glad you stayed.
so anyway,
Wow.
well, that's my story.
Beautiful story.